Hey, John, thanks for joining me for another website review. Today, we're going to take a look at Three Ships Beauty. And obviously, I'm not buying many beauty products for myself, but I know my wife's in the market, and I know
Who are
Lily
you
over
kidding,
there.
James?
Yeah, I know. Looking like this, I mean, come on, this doesn't happen by itself, right? But I know Lily over there. She's a fantastic marketing mind, and everything I see coming out of that shop sounds to be like a win. So maybe we can do our best to give them a little bit of advice. It sounds like they might have a website redesign in the near future, and it's not a good time to focus on optimization right now. But there might be some things about their current site that they want to carry over, and there might be some things that they definitely want to experiment with changing when they get to that kind of wireframing stage or trying to rough out what the new site should look like. So it seems like an opportune time for us to kind of, help them out a little bit and give them our best thoughts of their current situation and how that should impact the future. So I've got the site loaded up here. What is your first impression when you see kind of this, I don't know, this modal window with the discount offer and the email capture?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of pop-ups. I feel like a broken record at this point, James. I'm sure it feels like that to you as well. But telling people that you'll give them 10% off before they really even know much about your brand or have had a chance to dive into it is a huge challenge. You're telling people that my product is not worth what I charge for it. It's worth 10% less than that right off the bat, and that's the first impression. Um, there's an argument for pop-ups if you really need a pop-up to bolster your contact list. And look, the contact information, it's valuable. I get it. It's worth 10%, but it's just the wrong perception for the customer. So do an offer here, or I would say instead of a promo, some type of offer, whether it be something like, uh, you know, free shipping over value, or just not a dollar or percentage off, right? You could do special packages. You could do first access to new products. There's a lot of other things that you could offer here, besides a dollar or percentage off. Other than that, if you don't need their phone number, don't require it. Email is hard enough to get. I get if you want a phone number, just ask for the phone number if you're going to go all in on SMS and ditch the email. And then you can always go from SMS to email and ask folks to reply to an SMS with their email address. A lot of people will do it. I've seen a lot of success around that.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I wonder if it would even be beneficial to just say, lead with subscribe to our newsletter, and then kind of, if you're going to deliver the 10% off, do that in the first email and say like, and then it kind of feels like a gift, right? It's not, I'm not
Mhm.
being held captive basically for, or held ransom for my email address to get 10%. It's like, join the newsletter because you want to hear about new products, you want to get skincare routine
Exactly.
advice, whatever. But in that first email, you get a 10% off discount code that feels kind of pleasant and surprising. So I like that. And then maybe triggering this based on exit intent, scroll depth, some kind of longer, 30-second time or something like that. But this first kind of jumps up into your face when you land on the site. Even if I shop for beauty products regularly, I might not know Three Ships yet. And I still don't, because all I see is this, and this pop-up gives me very little context about who you are and what makes you different from every other brand out there. So maybe just it's a presentation thing. Cool. So I'll close that out. And then as we get into kind of the hero section here, we'll be able to see the navigation and a free shipping offer there up top. First reactions to this above the fold section of their site.
I'm not a huge fan of the navigation at this point, and I think if Three Ships is doing a redesign, as you alluded to, then I think navigation should be something that is taken a hard look at. The biggest issue I have here is that most of the navigation is about the brand. It's about them. It's not about serving the consumer. It's okay to let the consumer know things are at Target, but putting that in your navigation is a bold move. Um, Also, most folks really just want to know based on the navigation very quickly, am I in the right place? Do you have products or services that can solve my pain or need that brought me to the site in the first place? It's a big challenge when, I hear about, learn, FAQ, and now at Target, and then only thing I have otherwise is shop. None of those items, at least at a high level, tell me anything about what you sell or how you help me. So it's one thing. Instead, what I would highly recommend doing here is about FAQ, learn, all those things could really go down in the footer or be baked into the homepage content. Now at Target, sounds like it should be a lockup on the homepage, or have a store locator, right? And just list all the Target locations on there. There's a lot of good options there that aren't putting that in nav. And then for shop, when you rolled over shop, it looked like there were some categories. Yeah, you could just do something that is, similar to this in the main navigation, and make this your main navigation. Now, by product type, I don't know, roll over that for me, James, if you would.
Hmm.
But yeah, I would do something like, skincare categories, and then I would do, you could do skin care by type, bestsellers, etc. Obviously, I'm not in this industry, but I think what you could do is easily reword those by product type, by skin type, by bestsellers, to be oriented around the consumer, which skin type definitely is. That's a good start. And then that will help people to understand where they should go from there and get a really good understanding of how the brand can help them very quickly.
Yeah, I think that's a really astute observation. And like, I don't know, I think the number of items here is probably okay. We generally recommend like 3 to 5. But
Hmm.
to your point, some of these commercial elements should probably be given a little more prominence here because, maybe they think, hey, we're running ads. So the customer has some context from the Facebook ad or they follow our Facebook page or whatever. But not every customer is getting to you that way. There's going to be some organic search. There's going to be word of mouth. So like if I tell somebody at a barbecue about 3 ships, I might tell them everything I know about 3 ships, but if they don't actually visit your site until a few days later, like, what was that brand you recommended again? Let me check them out. They land here and it's like, well, I don't have a whole lot of context. So I don't know
Hmm.
exactly what I'm walking into. Giving kind of the full breadth of the product portfolio in the navigation, maybe like, shop by use case, shop by your skin type, view our
Hmm.
best sellers, and then merchandise or something like that. Because even here, you've got merchandise there, but then you also have it in this drop down, right? And then maybe bundles or lip kits. But I think that's a very astute observation. I was reassured to see if they're going to use a call to action bar here at the very top of the page that they went with free shipping, because I know we call that out all the time as really
Hmm.
the only thing that makes a significant impact there. With free gift with purchase might work sometimes too, but really it's like nobody wants to pay for shipping. It kind of feels like a sunk cost. Like, why would I pay to get something to my door when historically for the last several decades I've been walking into Target and bringing it home for free? So if you can kind of cut out that cost, even if it's just resulting, if it's being covered by a higher product price, that's okay. But to the consumer, free feels good. And so it's good to see that as kind of the primary offer up here.
Yeah, and Amazon kind of ruined this for everybody in e-com, right? I mean, with Prime and free 2 day shipping. It's so you really kind of need to play the game, and I think they're doing that here, which is great. Um,
Awesome.
in terms of the main area down below where they have the dewdrops mushroom, um, I think I'm never really a huge fan of focusing on one product in these areas, even if it's a new product. I would much rather it be something that is a unique value proposition for the brand. And what I mean by that is, again, educate the customer that A, they're in the right place, and B, you're going to be able to help solve a pain or need that they have. And focusing on one product and promoting one product or even a couple of products here is generally not the way to do that. When we run tests on what performs best, um, products usually perform the least, and what performs the most is clearly having value propositions here. Things about like, what problems does 3 ships solve? Why would I buy 3 ships over any other product I find at Target that's in the beauty aisle? You really want to make sure that you're letting people know what's different here. And right now, I have no idea. I still am not clear on what they sell based on what we've looked at, where their focus is, and what makes them different over all the beauty products that exist out there.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And I think we always talk about this 5 second test. Within the first 5 seconds, do I know who you are, who you serve, what problem you solve, and what product or service you offer to solve that problem? You kind of got to check the box on all of those in an instant
Hmm.
as part of that first impression. And putting any product here, it doesn't matter what's in this picture, is not going to check the box for all of those. I think maybe what we might test here is an image of all these different types of products in some kind of a collection on a countertop or something like that, where you can read the labels, you can kind of see there's a cleanser, a toner, whatever. It shows kind of the breadth of your offerings, but then the headline is maybe something about whatever their value prop is, right? Like ethically sourced, chemical free, whatever. skincare items for, the eco-conscious millennial lady, whatever. Like, I don't know, that whoever you serve, right? Making a lot of assumptions there. But I think that shows the products visually, right? It shows how many different kinds you have, but it also speaks to a very specific person and audience and separates you from the other brands that are on the shelves at Target, because we know how many other skincare
Right.
brands are out there. So maybe that's something worth testing on the new site, is like less campaign focused messaging and more kind of evergreen who we are. And to your point earlier, that helps you ditch this from the primary navigation, put it down in the footer, because you're telling people who you are. You're telling them about you right here in the header with that headline.
Hmm. Exactly.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's move down. Looks like they're going with social proof right after this. And they've got some as seen in. I know normally we call out the use of carousels. Either put this in like a 3x3 or just keep it to your three most impactful and then link out to a page that's
Hmm.
dedicated on media coverage or something like that. Hovering over some of these to see where they go. It does look like these are going to go to a specific press page on their site. So I think that's super savvy to not take somebody to Forbes where they're going to get lost reading another article. And they're keeping these nice and tight, right? They're keeping these short and impactful. So, what's your feedback on this kind of lockup about social proof here in publications and media coverage?
Well, I think you touched on a bunch of the items that we would usually mention, but I love how they've done a quote with each of these, because that clearly shows. And I'll just say the biggest objection that we hear around beauty and fashion brands when they start listing big names like Elle and all these other publications that most people have heard of, right? The problem is, what has become kind of an epidemic in these two industries is that they advertise in these publications, and then they use that advertisement to say that they were seen in or featured in. And it's a gray area. I don't really approve of it, and consumers are super leery about it. So typically, when they see a logo anymore, they just assume that that person advertised in that magazine and bought that logo, if you will, right?
Hmm.
And the magazines and publications, they're not policing this at all. So it's become a big issue. But here, when you have a quote like this, it clearly says that there was more than just an advertisement, because there's no way that, Pop Sugar is saying those items, that sentence about an ad, right?
Right.
It just, makes it clear that it was an article, a review, even if it's like one of those organic, like, where the celebrity spills out their supposed bag, right?
Hmm.
And your products are in there. That's fine too. But at least something was said about your product, which gives it a lot of validity here.
Right. The last thing I'll call it here is use some of this in that headline. If you do decide to test more of an evergreen headline here, like inspired by nature is a really powerful, just kind of statement
Mhm.
there. So maybe try to incorporate some of this stuff, like get that gorgeous complexion you've always been dreaming of without the use of harmful ingredients, something like that. Just start to pair these things together. Those are like, you don't need to come up with anything new. Read these reviews again. I bet there are some, I mean, these are talented writers at these places. So they've got some chops. Just use their own words against them, so to speak, and then look
Yeah.
at customer reviews, and you'll have your headline written for you in no time. And then you can test multiple and see what converts better, right? If we move down a little farther, we'll get right into a bestseller section. I'm just going to see how big. Okay, so this looks like 4 products with a little bit of a carousel navigation here.
Hmm.
So I'll try to get the products in here, because really all this says is you can't go wrong with bestsellers, and
Yeah.
that'll link out to the bestsellers category. So here's what we're looking at primarily. And if I hover over it, you'll be able to see kind of the liquid spilled on the table, so to speak. It's kind of a
Mhm.
transparent, like, here's what the product looks like.
Yeah, I love that they did that on rollover. Kind of gives you a little bit of understanding of what you're buying in the jar, because that's so hard to tell in beauty products for sure.
Mhm.
Um, I guess my initial point on this is, one is, just have the 4 products and not the carousel. Folks aren't going to click that. It's very rarely that they're going to see it. Your eye might get drawn over to that arrow, but the chance of them clicking on it is slim. Carousel, we just see in-page navigations don't get used. The second thing is, you have a headline, a cost, and a number of reviews, but you don't have a clear call to action. So you really need a clear button under each of these, something like view details, learn more, low intent to purchase. So do not use add to cart here. Nobody is ready to add to cart just based on the information that's being described here, unless they've ordered before. Okay.
All
I
right.
saw you look up that like something was
I
going
tried to,
on.
I
I
was
was
going
like,
to catch it because I thought it was going to fall and hit the screen. So, maybe we'll leave that in. It adds a little personality.
oh.
All
Technical
right.
mishaps happen.
Take two. We've got the bestseller section here. What do we think? What do we like? What do we dislike? I know you're at midstream, so we'll stitch it together.
Oh, good. No, I was just saying here that I would eliminate the carousel and just stick to the products because in-page navigations don't get used very often. I would also have a clear call to action under each of these, right? So a clear, view details, learn more, low intent to purchase. So I would not use add to cart, for instance, because that's unlikely. And if anybody is ready to add to cart, they've purchased before. So they're also going to go to the PDP to purchase if they really want that product. So that's not going to be a concern or kill your conversions. And then the self badge that's above the Dewdrops mushroom product, those tend to perform really, really well. So it's great to see that social proof added on there. Um, you know, other than that, I don't know that you need the number of reviews. It's not overly helpful at this stage. Or even the price. I would really just get people to the next step in that funnel, which is the product detail page. So I feel like a lot of people put the price and the reviews on their bestsellers or on their homepage product listings like this simply because they don't know what else to put there and they want more content, right? But those two things don't really add a lot of value at this stage. People aren't concerned about that yet. They want to get into the details, then be convinced that it's worth $19 or whatever you're charging. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. The two things I'll call out here is, again, I'm not in the market, so I don't know how important if people shop by hyaluronic acid, right? But if they don't, maybe that doesn't need to be there. Maybe it's more about the benefit, right? Like, is this an under eye serum that gets rid of, dark circles, whatever? Like, that's kind of like what I would want to see in the messaging there, unless there's something I don't know about this industry and how people shop for these products, which they already know. So if it's necessary, keep it in there. The antioxidant is kind of an example of the alternative, right? Like, people are actively looking for antioxidants in some of the stuff that they consume, but so it makes sense that it would be here. But hydrosol is the same kind of thing. Like, I don't know if the ingredient is as important as like the benefit, right? Is it a nourishing type of cream, or is it removing under eye circles, whatever? And then the other thing I was going to call out is like, man, when you see 151 reviews and it's a full 5 stars, that kind of is alarm bells to me as a consumer, because that's a lot of reviews and not, somebody in there probably gave it less than 5 stars, but not enough to bring it down a notch. It just kind of feels like it makes me question the credibility. And even if it's 100% legit, the average consumer is going to say, well, are these legit reviews? I mean, who has a perfect score? Who gets A pluses across the board? Kids certainly do it. But you're kind of just raising that question. And so I'm not saying to fabricate anything, but we see that 4.5 stars performs a lot better than 5 just because of that reason. There is a natural tendency to say it can't really be 5 stars. These have to be fake. These have to be manufactured, whatever. Yeah, so moving down into the next section here. This looks like some of that. Oh, it looks like they have a skincare quiz. If we have more time, we could go through that and see. I would hope that they're using that to kind of segment their audience, recommend specific products based on skin type. So assuming they're doing that, I think this is a really strong section here, and they kind of set expectations. It takes 2 minutes, right? 2 minutes, and you'll get some kind of recommendation. You'll get matched with the products that suit your needs. I think that's really savvy. The only thing I would say here is like, can you put the first step of the quiz right here, right? Can instead of this image, can you have the very first step and like get started right away? Just remove one step in the process, because I'm guessing it's a multi-step quiz in itself. So get them started faster. Any reaction to this?
Quizzes on beauty products work really, really well. So it is the one area where I want to know what's best for me, especially if I'm not clear on, as you mentioned earlier, all the technical details with the different types of acids and things of that sort. I don't know what I would want to use, right? And so I think that those quizzes perform extremely well for conversions in these instances. The more technical and advanced your product, the more you need a quiz.
Awesome. And the one thing that I'm asking myself here about this product image is like, is that actually how you use a product? Maybe it is. Maybe it's one of those. I know you can get like lavender spray for your pillow to help you relax. Like my wife has that. So maybe that's how this is used. But I'm guessing this probably goes on your skin or your hair or your body in some way. It's not necessarily being shown that way. So I'm not saying that's costing you any sales, but that's a little weird to me. I'm like, I find my brain trying to solve that riddle instead of like engaging over here. And maybe I'm just isolated in that.
That's a very good point. You know what else I would do? I would mirror image this. Because right now your eye is going off the page to where it's spraying to, right? So instead of leading people to the quiz, they see the quiz and then they look at the product image and they're led off into the top and to the right. So I would just mirror that image so that you're spraying the quiz CTA you want people to actually pay attention to.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. So we'll fire through the rest of this. We're about half to 3/4 of the way down the page. This is kind of appears to be their transparency angle. So talking about those ethically or not ethically sourced ingredients, but nature friendly, right? Good for your skin, nothing to artificial chemicals and stuff like that. Links out to their product philosophy. So again, you've got some of this about us content. Like these first two items have been checked on the homepage, and that's what we were recommending at the beginning of the presentation here. Is like basically this doesn't need to be in the primary navigation anymore because you're kind of checking the box and giving people the option to dig a little deeper there on your homepage. So that can go down to the footer, and that kind of makes room for bringing some of these more to the forefront and making them more visually apparent to the user.
Yeah, I would take that large paragraph and break that up a little bit, maybe eliminate some of the copy. It's a lot, and I think if we did eye tracking on this, people aren't reading all of it by any means. They might skim it, maybe, but I doubt it. There's a lot to say there, and it's all seemingly valuable, but maybe just call out some bullet points, right? We provide full ingredient lists. What are the big things that you want to call out here? Also, the animated text there, it's really hard to read in that way, especially if someone is scrolling down the page. It's not that I don't mind the design style. I just don't want to animate it. I would pause it and focus on getting people to click on the product philosophy or just read this content to start. Right now, if we did eye tracking, the combination of that animation and the large paragraph clearly would tell me that it's not going to get read because it's a distraction with the animation.
Yeah, love the suggestion of bullet points here. That's what I was going to say. If you didn't, is like just make these 3 items here, like backed by science, transparent ingredient list and whatever else you want to put in there. But like, yeah, 3 bullet points, that'll be enough to get somebody to click through if they're going to, or continue if they're not, right? And so let's continue down. This kind of looks like a filler almost. I'm not seeing any other interaction here other than the text kind of faded in and out right there. It's kind of like a mission statement, right?
It's so compelling. Why is that not what is in the header?
Right.
That would be a great main feature, header. You deserve to know what you put on your skin. Oh, I do? Okay, what am I putting on my skin? And then you can lead into how you're different, and 3 Ships addresses this. That is, I believe, what should be up above. Why that's buried so far down here on the page, I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost like an afterthought, and it takes up, the full height of my screen right now. It's such a big part, and it's so jarring compared to how much information you have packed into this section alone, right? And then you get down to here, and it's one simple message, and it's powerful. But like, is this the best use of this real estate? Like, I realize we're getting to the bottom of the page, but to your point, let's try this as the header. Get rid of this section altogether, and just get folks down into. It looks like we got some blog content here, so I know you generally have an opinion on blog content on the homepage. So what's your thought there? Because I was actually, when I saw the tiles, I expected this to be an Instagram feed and hopefully a shoppable Instagram feed, but it does look like it's going to be blog posts. Yeah.
Yeah, the hashtag her hustle, which would be an interesting hashtag, I think. But okay, so I'll go on a mini rant here about blog posts on homepage. I think that they're a mistake to include. It's okay to link to the blog in the footer, things of that sort. But this content, if you really want people to read it, should be where it is helpful in the decision-making journey. So on a product detail page, for instance, it talks about, how, skin rejuvenation products, for instance, or dewdrops, when's best serum for dry skin. Great. Put that on the dewdrops page. But the challenge is that blog content is above the funnel. It's higher up in the funnel than your homepage. So if you've gotten people to your homepage, send them down the funnel. That's the whole point of a homepage is not to convert and sell. The job of a homepage is to get people to the next step in the funnel, and that's it. And so here you're just sending people back up the funnel, and there's generic content that generally does not convert or sell as well as a homepage even. So it's great for getting people to your site, very poor for getting them to convert. I would highly recommend that you leave the blog, but not have it featured on your homepage in this manner.
Right. Yeah. And I realize we're catching them at a moment in time here, but two of these three items are pretty self serving, right? We are live at Urban Outfitters and we got this award. Both of those things are awesome. Happy for the wins for three ships. But as a consumer, the one that really appeals to me is this middle one. And I'd love to see kind of maybe you filter out a category on your blog that is oriented around news and press or something like that. Filter it out of this
Mhm.
section and only show, because what you're promising here is skin tips, right? And so I only get one real skin tip here. Just filtering that and making that consumer centric. If you're going to keep this section here, that's a small improvement I bet you can make that's going to improve the user experience there. So then we're
Yeah, and
down
that's
into
actually a
the, oh, go
great
ahead.
example. Oh, sorry, I was gonna say that's a great example of content that should be moved around on the site. That should be on your store locator page.
Hmm.
Great, we're live at Urban Outfitter. Learn more about it, right?
Right.
Because if people are really interested in learning more, and really, very few people are going to click on that. But the fact that they read it and see it is good social proof as they're looking through your store locator. Like, oh, they're Urban Outfitter. Okay, they must be a legit brand. They're at Target. Wow. Okay, I know I can get them almost anywhere. They're definitely a legitimate brand. So that's really how I would look at that.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So then we're down to the footer. This is the bottom of the page. So I'll just kind of scroll up a bit so we can see everything at one time. I know we like to see those shopping links on the left hand side over there, at least in terms of those four columns. So kudos to three ships on that one. A lot of stuff to look at here. So where do you want to dive in first?
Well, overall, I think they've done a pretty good job. They follow the formula that I would like to see in general, right? They all the shopping links first thing on the left. Then some support and company links in the middle. I would move the follow under the logo on the right. You already do have the logos there, but what I would really focus on as well is having, as you've coined it, the trust trifecta. So make sure you have the email address for support, a phone number if you can, and an address. Even if it's a warehouse or a PO box, that's fine. The goal here is that people want to know your legitimate brand, and if they want to get a hold of you, that they can. So it just increases trust dramatically if you have a way to get a hold of you in your footer on every page. So move that stack for follow under the logo on the far right and add in above those items the additional information. I find it interesting they have a Spotify follow account for a beauty brand, but hey, why not? You know, uh, it could be fun. The other things I would change here is I would eliminate the credit card icons or payment icons. They're not necessary by any means, and the fact is that they become a distraction. Meaning, if you did eye tracking on this, you're gonna see people's eyes going straight down there because of the color contrast and just the busyness of those. And the reality is, consumers just expect that when they get to checkout, you're going to take some form of payment they have available to them. And I have never, in the past handful of years, maybe almost even 10 years, been to a site that does not take at least one form of payment I have available to me. So it's really not a concern for folks. So all you're doing with those logos is distracting.
Yeah, especially on the homepage, right? Like maybe it's here because it will show up on every page's footer because there's some kind of a
Mm.
template going on here. Maybe you can make an argument there, but really where these need to be, I guess, is on that product detail page and the checkout page, the very final step, just saying like, hey, we accept all these different kinds of things. But right here, to your point, it's more of a distraction, cuts your footer in half basically in terms of vertical spacing and lets them focus more on
Mhm.
some of these other things that are probably higher priority, at least for this brand. And I'll say about the Spotify thing, I did catch on their pop up, one of the value propositions for joining their list was playlists. So I'm guessing they have some kind of a branded playlist that you listen to while you do your skincare routine, right? Which I think is pretty savvy in terms of a community building and audience building. So I'm guessing, I'm making a lot of assumptions there. I didn't mean to click on that, but here we go. We'll check it out. But yeah, it looks like they're kind of appealing to folks that way and sharing, a little personal touch, right? Building their community around the Three Ships brand. So
That's great though. I like it. And it's interesting, to another way to brand, and it doesn't require a ton of effort, and it could be fun. So
for sure. Awesome. Well, hopefully we got a few insights delivered there. I know they're expecting that site redesign, but I'm guessing you don't start with a blank slate. Maybe you start with some of the elements that you already have, and maybe this feedback will be helpful as they start to kind of wireframe out and sketch out what the new site will look like with a little more customization. So as always, John, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and opinions here today, and we'll look forward to doing another one of these with you real soon.
can't wait.